Hi, everyone, and welcome to tonight's webinar, Women in Philanthropy, hosted by JOFA. My name is Rachel Lieberman. I'm JOFA's Assistant Director, and I'm excited to be moderating tonight's conversation. This is the latest installment in JOFA's webinar series, which take place approximately every other month. It's our goal with these webinars to be reaching out to a broad audience of JOFA supporters and to create opportunities for you to learn from experts in the field. This webinar is also being recorded and should be available on JOFA's website within the next few days. In a moment, we'll be hearing from two outstanding presenters, Anne Pava and Dannin Rosenthal. Tonight, we hope to be able to give you both a conceptual framework that will help you think of yourselves both as individual philanthropists and as a member of a community of other women philanthropists. Secondly, we hope to give you some practical skills and ideas that you can apply in the future. Leslie and Anne will be doing some role plays at the end and modeling some solicitation conversations. We're also hoping to have some time for Q&A at the end of the session. So if you have questions, please submit them via the form, which is available in the description underneath this video. You can find it right there. Feel free to submit the questions throughout the broadcast, and we'll do our best to answer all of them at the end. Now I'd like to introduce our two panelists. First, we have Anne Pava, who is the immediate past chair of National Women's Philanthropy of the Jewish Federations of North America. During her 2-year tenure, she traveled the world speaking to women about their philanthropy and its impact on the Jewish people. Under her leadership, the Women's Philanthropy campaign of the Jewish Federation of North America increased by $3 million. She is also a past recipient of the JFNA Kipnis Wilson Friedland Award for Outstanding Women Philanthropists and the Harold Grinspoon Foundation's Lay Leadership Award for Excellence in Jewish Education. A passionate advocate of Jewish day school education, she served as the founding president of the Hebrew High School of New England, the region's first Jewish high school serving the communities of northern Massachusetts and greater Hartford and New Haven, Connecticut. Anne has served on the JOFA board since 2003 and was recently appointed to the boards of Yeshivat Maharat and GPATS at Yeshiva University. She currently serves as the campaign chair of the Jewish Federation of Greater Hartford. And next, we have Dannin Rosenthal, who is the president of the Jewish Federation of Greater MetroWest, New Jersey. She served as UJA Annual Campaign Chair for Greater MetroWest and as Major Gifts Co-Chair. She's also served as President of MetroWest's Women's Philanthropy and Women's Campaign Chair. Leslie served as the Chair of MetroWest's Israel and Overseas Committee and was a Vice Chair of the merger committee that resulted in the creation of Greater MetroWest. She was a founding board member of the Partnership for Jewish Learning and Life and serves as a member of the Rachel Coalition Steering Committee. Leslie is honored to serve as a member of the National Women's Philanthropy Advisory Council. She was a co-chair of the 2010 International Lion of Judah Conference. Leslie has a lifelong involvement in volunteer opportunities and is a past president of Oheb Shalom congregation located in South Orange, New Jersey, and is a proud alumna of the National Young Leadership Cabinet of the Jewish Federations of North America. A graduate of Smith College and Boston University School of Law, Leslie served as a Deputy Attorney General in the New Jersey Attorney General's Division of Law, representing the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Leslie and her husband David live in South Orange and are the parents of James and Elise, who currently live nearby. We're very excited to have both of you with us tonight.
Oh, thank you, Rachel, and good evening, everyone. I'm so happy that you could join Leslie and me for this webinar on women in philanthropy. And truthfully, it's our very first webinar, so we hope you can see us. We're actually not 100% sure how it works, but anyway, it's our pleasure to be here. When I first spoke to Rachel about doing this webinar on women's philanthropy, she said, you know, I don't think most women think of themselves as philanthropists. And the truth is she's 100% correct. The concept of being a philanthropist does not come naturally to women. As you heard in the intro, I've been involved in the Jewish Federation movement for 25 years. And my most immediate past position was I chaired National Women's Philanthropy. But women's philanthropy wasn't always our name. And if there are any old-timers out there in the audience, and if you are familiar with your local Jewish Federation, you will remember that women's philanthropy used to be called the Women's Division. And many of us thought that women's division did not really reflect the important work of our campaign, of our women, of their philanthropy. They raised so much money, they gave so much money, they were so sophisticated, and we thought women's division sounded like, with no offense, like the sisterhood at the shul or the PTA. So about 10 years ago, we came up with the idea that we were going to change the name of women's division across the country to Women's Philanthropy. And we started at the top, and those of us sort of went out in a team to the Jewish world. And I remember so excited about changing our name from Women's Division to Women's Philanthropy. And I remember walking into my Women's Division meeting of my local Jewish Federation, and I made a presentation about the fact that National is now having us change our name from Women's Division to Women's Philanthropy. Isn't that wonderful? And they said, no, it is not. We hate it. And I was like really shocked. And in fact, we found that women hated it across the country. And we said to ourselves, what is it that they hate about this? And the answer was that they hated the word philanthropy. They did not want the word philanthropy in with anything that they were doing. So I have a PowerPoint that we're about to show you on all the reasons that women gave about 10 years ago about why they did not feel comfortable with the word philanthropy. Philanthropy is only for rich people. One must be giving a six-figure gift to be considered a philanthropist. Philanthropy gives the image of an exclusive club. If we put philanthropy in our name, women won't join us. Philanthropy is only about money. We don't want people to think we only care about their money, and we certainly don't want to ask them for it. Others felt philanthropy is showy. It's for people who want their name on a building, or even for those of us who are wearing our flashy line of jute bins. And then people would say, you know, and they didn't say this so much, but I really think that this was my own that I put in there. Philanthropy feels like a male thing. After all, whom do we think of when we think of philanthropists? We think of Warren Buffett, we think of Bill Gates, we think of Mark Zuckerberg. You don't think of too many women who are out there. And then I was thinking, even in the Jewish community, when we think of the mega donors and mega philanthropists in the Jewish community, we think of Bronfman, we think of Steinhardt. Do we even know the names of their wives, of these mega millionaire men? So I think that for those reasons, women have been really hesitant to call themselves philanthropists. Now, I know that this perception of philanthropy was not just amongst the women of the Jewish Federation world, but it's among women in general. And you know what? It is among women in general, regardless of their socioeconomic status. Women just don't think of themselves as philanthropists. And we know that there is great power that comes with giving to something you believe in, no matter what that amount. And there is both great power and joy that comes along with getting others to join you in supporting what is meaningful to you. Supporting your piece of the world where you are making a difference is life-changing. So I would like to tell you and like to say that I really think most people think that the most important thing about philanthropy, or the most important way to be a philanthropist, is giving money. But truthfully, the most important part of being a philanthropist is getting others to join you and to join a cause. Whether you are a $100 donor or a $100,000 donor, we need buy-in to make transformational change. No single person can give enough of her own time or her own personal money to make the kind of change we hope to see in our lifetime. And let me just backtrack a little and say that when we did eventually change our name to Women's Philanthropy in the Jewish Federation movement. It took a couple of years, but almost every group did change their name. And I would say that since we have done that, the campaign has taken off and it has grown year after year after year. I think perceptually it is just extraordinarily powerful concept. And I just want to focus on one more Federation fundraising tool, because I think that it's something that is meaningful to women and is transferable in this conversation tonight. I would say that the most successful piece of fundraising through the Jewish Federation campaign has been this pin that I have on, and Leslie has hers on too, this Lion of Judah pin. There are nearly 18,000 women, Lions of Judah, worldwide, and this pin represents a gift of $5,000 a year to your local Jewish Federation. It is not a six-figure gift, it's not a five-figure gift, and yet when women wear this pin, they are the proudest philanthropists in the world. And just to give you an example of how we found ways to encourage women to give at this level, many communities now have what they call a step-up lion gift, so that if a woman will commit to reaching a giving level of $5,000 over a 3-year period, she gets the pin right away at an $1,800 gift and joins the ranks of women philanthropists around the world. And I think it's been a phenomena, and I think it's something women like to be part of a group. They like to be together, and they like jewelry. So I think that this phenomena can be tailored really for JOFA or for any organization to think about something that pulls people together and is collectively positive and meaningful. So tonight, Leslie and I are not only encouraging all of you to embrace the concept of philanthropy, but I want to encourage you to embrace it quickly, because the future of women in philanthropy, it's not even a future, it's already here. Over the next few years, women will have the financial capacity to become the leaders in philanthropy across the country, just like Gates, just like Bronfman, just like Steinhardt, and they will be deciding where to put their philanthropic dollars. And if we are not speaking to them, trust me, someone else will be. So I have two PowerPoints here that I will go through quickly, just some amazing statistics about women in philanthropy and women and wealth. So what you're looking at right now is Women in Philanthropy, a philanthropic profile, which some of these statistics I thought were very interesting. 84% of women business owners make their own philanthropic decisions independently, regardless of marital status. Studies showed that women give from the heart. 47% of women versus 39% of men feel that giving is a moral imperative. Today, 70% of program officers at foundations are women. More than half of foundation CEOs are women, and nearly a third of foundation board members are women. This was interesting. Single women are twice as likely to be donors than single men, and holding income and education constant, single women give more than single men. And women direct the largest share of giving to educational, medical, or scientific organizations. And there is also, and I think we all inherently know this, is a strong correlation between women's involvement in an organization and willingness to support it financially. So I want to go to the next PowerPoint. And this is just about women and money now and over the next couple of years. In 2005, women represented 46% of the nation's top wealth holders. By 2010, women controlled over 60% of the wealth in America. And within the next 15 years, between $400 billion and $2.3 trillion will change hands, and the bulk of inheritors will be women. Women inherit almost 70% of all estates, and always shocks me, this one. The average age at which married women inherit estates upon the death of their husbands is the surprising young age of 55. So those are some statistics and facts that I had wanted to share with you. And I'm going to go back for one more minute. One thing I forgot to mention about this pin when I talked about the Lion of Judah pin, I'm thinking about women and money and women and wealth. This pin, the concept, came into being about 40 years ago. 40 years ago, only men used to donate money to UJA. UJA is the old name for Jewish Federations of North America. And what people found was that when a husband in a family died, the wife did not know how to continue to give on her own, nor did she continue to give. Philanthropy was kept with the husband and not with the wife. And so a couple of very brilliant women came up with this idea of a $5,000 gift in a woman's own name, really to get women to be thinking about their own philanthropy, because as they were watching women live longer than their husbands, they wanted to make sure that these contributions to UJA that were so desperately needed at the time to save the Jewish people would continue. So I wanted to just throw that in after talking about these facts about women in philanthropy and women in money, because like back then, women still don't think about philanthropy, don't always think about giving on their own, and we can see that there are going to be plenty of women coming up the pike who we can be talking to and can be working and introducing to JOFA. So I wanted to just throw that in, and our goal this evening is really to help any woman who is uncomfortable with the word philanthropy to change her mindset. And it's also our hope that everyone participating on this webinar will leave feeling proud and strong about for their own personal philanthropy. And we also hope that you will be leaving this webinar with the tools and the language you need to speak to people about philanthropy and to get others to join us in this mission. So right now, it is my pleasure to turn the screen over to Leslie Dannin Rosenthal, who I lovingly call the Queen of Philanthropy Training. Leslie.
Thanks, Anne. So we're shifting from thinking about ourselves as philanthropists to asking other people to be philanthropists. And there's a midrash that says that there are concentric circles of tzedakah. We're all familiar with the hierarchy of tzedakah, the Maimonides ladder, but instead think of yourself at the center of when you drop a stone into a pool of water and the concentric circles that radiate out from that. So we are at each individual at the center. We are obligated to take care of ourselves first. That's the very first obligation, is to make sure that we have what we need in the world to survive. And then the next ring of the circle is our family and our relatives, and then our Jewish community, and then the Jewish community as a whole, and the wider world, beyond even the Jewish community around the world, and then the whole world. So, and we see this all the time, unfortunately, way too often in this world. Just in the last month, if you think about all the times that you've checked in on Facebook or on Skype or picked up a phone to call family members here or in Israel, this is what we do. We check in with each other because we care. And one of the ways we demonstrate caring is by asking others to help us in tzedakah. So we're going to do a few things tonight that's going to help you be someone who asks others to join you as a philanthropist. We're going to talk about your personal motivation so that you can develop a very short elevator pitch that allows you to ask for dollars. We're going to talk about the people you're going to be doing the asking of, potential donors and actual donors, so that we can think a little bit about what their motivations are. And then we're going to connect your personal passion with how you convey that to the donor and actually talk about how to ask for a gift. We're going to do this tonight in the context of JOFA. That's the organization that we're here to talk about and that most of you are associated with. I would be remiss if I didn't say that this training of mine comes from my training as a federation leader and campaigner, and I am always grateful to those who came before me and taught me to do this work, and it is really my honor and privilege to share it with all of you. So one thing you have to do if you're going to ask others for their philanthropy is again, you start with yourself and what motivates you. If you can find your authentic passion, that's what people are going to remember long after the facts and the figures and even the dollar amount you ask them for. If you're authentic in your passion and how you feel about an organization, that's going to really carry you a long way. So you're going to have to perhaps remind yourself of what ignited your initial passion or that internal flame that you have for an organization. So let me share with you my personal story and why JOFA touches me as a conservative Jew. I actually, though, grew up in Newport, Rhode Island, home to Touro Synagogue, the oldest synagogue in the United States. It was and is an Orthodox congregation led by, when I was growing up, a wonderful man born in Dublin, Ireland, named Rabbi Theodore Lewis of blessed memory. Rabbi Lewis had a very small congregation. There were 300 families, 80 kids between the ages of 5 and 18, none of them actually living an Orthodox life except for him and for our cantor. But he worked with what he had, and he gave us a very, very strong Jewish Orthodox style Hebrew school education. So we went 3 days a week, and we were taught, girls and boys, taught to daven from a siddur to the point where I still can walk into any shul across the world, pick up a siddur during a service, follow where I am, follow the traditions of the synagogue that I'm in, and be perfectly comfortable with them, because this man gave me the gift of feeling wonderful about being Jewish, this Orthodox rabbi. Rabbi Lewis also instilled in me, along with my parents, a love of Israel that is also with me to this day. So I feel very grateful for this is going to sound like a contradiction, but an Orthodox Hebrew school education that I received that allows me to be comfortable as a Jew in the world and to feel comfortable as a Jewish woman in the world. So I think from a young age, Rabbi Lewis helped me be a very young Jewish feminist in Orthodox context. So that's why I'm really, really happy to be doing this tonight. So so that would be my elevator pitch, my minute and a half or 2 minutes on why I care about JOFA. You can be asked this kind of question, you know, in the grocery store, at Kiddush, at a bus stop when you run in, just about anywhere. And so you need to be ready to respond. You need to really own it so that you can respond when someone says, what's this tribute gala thing I got an invitation to, and why are you involved in JOFA? Or just as something as simple as, what is JOFA? And you sometimes, in addition to that elevator pitch, you need some tools to help you express your passion for the organization. And with JOFA in particular, I cannot tell you how impressed I am with the website. The many of the answers are there, and you can start simply with the mission statement. And it's a very few words. JOFA's mission is building a more inclusive Orthodox community that values and engages women as full participants. It really just kind of rolls off the tongue. You can put it in your own language. In addition to that, there's the online version of the newsletter. There are videos from people who have been honored at the annual tribute gala. And there's this great thing called Humans of JOFA, which are slides of the women and the men who are engaged in the work of JOFA. So you've re-energized yourself with it. What do you do next? What else can you do with these tools? You can print something out and put it in the mail to someone that you want to engage, a woman or a man or a couple that you think might be interested in this, because there's really, as we know, nothing like a handwritten note in an envelope that's addressed in your handwriting to get someone's attention, even in the mail today. But email is good also. Say, for example, there's someone that you want to invite to the upcoming tribute gala. Say that person's name is Ann Pava, and I'm going to send an email to Ann and say, "Dear Ann, here's a copy of the invitation to the tribute gala, and I'll give you a call, but I really just wanted you to see this video. It's someone we both know, or here's the Humans of JOFA slideshow. Would love to get your reactions to it." So for the moment, pretend that Ann's received my email, and we're going to role play this little phone call. So ring, ring.
Hello.
Hi, Ann. It's Leslie. I hope you got my email. We can put the phone down now. I hope you got my email about the tribute gala in New York City for JOFA. It's November 15th in New York City. It's at a fabulous place called Guastavino's. I'd love to have you join me as my guest.
Oh, Leslie, that is so nice of you. Yes, I did get the information that you sent me. I looked at it quickly. I have to tell you, I live 2.5 hours from New York. The last thing I want to do is drive in on a Sunday night into the city. I'm going to take a pass.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I really, really want to introduce you to this organization and to my friends that I've made through this. I think they're like-minded people that you would really, really enjoy. And in addition to that, I think that I know it's a pain to come into New York City and especially driving in, but why don't you consider taking the train? I'll take the train too, and we'll make like a 2-day outing out of it. I'd love to spend time with you. And so on Sunday we'll go to the tribute gala. Maybe we'll come in a little early and go to a museum. And on Monday we can walk around, maybe do a little shopping, and then head home. And that way it won't be so stressful. And I'd really, really love to have you join me and hear about this terrific organization as well. And I would really love to have you join me.
Wow, you really want me to come, don't you?
I do. I really do. I just know how much you care about other women and about Jewish women, and I think that you'd find this interesting.
Well, I don't know that much about JOFA yet, but what I do know is that I love you, and I can't think of anything I'd rather do than spend a couple days in New York with you. So I guess we'll consider the JOFA dinner, since it's your treat, as my extra bonus. And sure, I'll come in with you. That'd be
That's great. One more thing before we go. So it's called a tribute gala. Obviously, they're going to ask you there's going to be an ask for dollars. I don't want you to pay. No. So that's why I'm preparing you in advance. I just want to make sure that you know it's coming, but you and I will have that conversation separately. After you've learned about it, I would never ask you to just give to an organization without hearing more about it and having the chance to process it. So we'll just leave that part to the side, and you and I will have a conversation about that sometime when we get back home, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Sold me.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So we've hung up. So I just want to walk you through a little bit of what went on there. First of all, I was prepared with the date, the time, and all of that. But most importantly, I think what I'm demonstrating there is the belief in a real Jewish value. It's a Jewish value to welcome people into your home, and so offering to bring somebody as a guest as a first-timer to an event really is your way of welcoming them into that particular tent, that tent that you live in, that you want them to feel comfortable in. So it really is a very welcoming gesture. And if it's possible for you to make that gesture, I highly recommend that you do that. Okay, so we're back home, and now I'm contemplating making the ask. And before I talk directly about how the best way to do that is, I want to help you face the fears that we all have about asking other people for money. The very basic fear is that people think you're asking for yourself, but especially with an introduction like this, Ann's going to know I'm not asking for myself, but you've got to get over that in your own head. The other thing I think that stops us sometimes is fear of showing our passion. You're exposing yourself a little bit here, and you're afraid of being rejected. So you're going to have to deal with that yourself, and in this instance, accept that you've already opened yourself up to that. So the other thing I want you to think about is your donor, especially since the economic recession of 2008. That hit people very hard, and although the economy is recovering and people should feel better, there's an uncertainty. I think after living through something like that, kind of like how many of our parents or grandparents lived through the Great Depression, we want to be sure that we know where our dollars are coming from. So you have to accept that where your donor might be coming from. And if you get a no, the most important important thing you can do as a solicitor is make that person feel valued. Because even if they're telling you no, they gave you their time, they were willing to listen, and you have to, again, another Jewish value of recognizing everybody as B'Tselem Elohim, and make them feel good so that the next time when you come back at them when they're in a better place, they know that you made them feel good. Again, it's how you make people feel that's really at bottom here. So what I'm going to, now we're approaching the ask, and the very best thing to do is to, when you're going to ask someone for dollars, is to make a face-to-face ask. Just assume for the moment that I've convinced Ann to meet me for coffee for what is not just our usual yak fest, but for she knows what's coming. Because I told her in advance, don't pay attention at the dinner, but I'm going to be talking to you about this afterwards, and we've had I've successfully made an appointment to meet Ann. We're going to do this a couple of different ways, and this is how it's going to go. So we'll do it first one way and then another way, and bear with us. So Ann and I are
wait, sorry,
we're having a technical difficulty.
Sorry. Ann, can you click on the microphone that's on your screen to unmute yourself?
Did that work?
Yes, good. Thank you very much. Okay.
Oh,
sorry,
okay.
take it away.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're seated in our favorite coffee shop, and I say, Ann, I want to thank you again for coming with me and taking the time out from being with your family and coming to New York with me. I think you saw a lot of what JOFA does, and I could tell that you were interested. It's an organization that is doing so much for Jewish women in our community, and I really would like to ask you to consider a gift of $136 and becoming a member of JOFA.
Oh, well, thank you for that. I'd really rather talk about how are your kids?
The kids are fine.
Yeah, where are they now?
So we're going to talk about the kids afterwards. I'm happy to talk that through with you, but this really is important to me. I made a promise to Rachel Lieberman in the office at JOFA that I would have this conversation with 4 different people, and so however the conversation turns out, I really did promise Rachel that I would make this commitment, and you're helping me live up to that commitment to at least have the conversation. So if we can just focus on that for right now, that would be great.
Well, I actually have to tell you, Leslie, I enjoyed the dinner. I thought it was beautiful. I thought everybody who participated was incredibly inspiring, and I think that the work that JOFA is doing is great, but to be quite honest with you, I'm not sure what it has to do with me. I'm not an Orthodox woman, and I know this is speaking to you somehow, but I'm not sure. I'm just not sure where I fit in here and why.
So I understand that. As you know, I'm not Orthodox either, but this really does speak to me because of this. Think about this: is that we want to lift all women, and that in the world today, even in the Jewish world, it's very hard for women to achieve anything close to equality. I don't know if you saw the recent article in the Forward. Every year they do this article about the pay of leading Jewish communal professionals, and if you look at where women are on the list, it's not in a good place. There is a woman temporarily at the top of the list because she's an interim president at Brandeis University, but otherwise it's of great concern. If we can begin to lift women up in the Orthodox community and show the elevation of women there, that's going to help Jewish women all across the board in achieving their goals, and that's why I think you should join me in supporting JOFA.
Huh. Well, that's actually a very good point. I had read that article in the Forward, and I was actually quite taken with it. And I have to admit that prior to this discussion today, I had been thinking, well, maybe there's no equality in the Orthodox community, but we have it everywhere else in the Jewish community. And then I did read that article this week as well, and I'm thinking, that is so not true. I was being a little smug thinking that we're doing great everywhere else, but the truth is that we're not doing great everywhere else. And I'm so happy that you brought that to my attention, and you're correct. help women in any part of our community to be prominent and to be equal is extraordinarily important. You know what? I'll be happy to become a member of JOFA. Thank you.
And thank you so much. I really look forward to sharing this experience with you going forward.
Thank you.
Okay, so that's how that goes, and then you send a handwritten thank you note. That's the really important follow-up piece, and you remember to invite Anne to all of the upcoming events. Only this time she gets to pay for herself. Okay, the next. So here's the next conversation, and it's going to go a little differently. I already know. I know going in a lot more about Anne's giving capacity. In the first conversation, I really wasn't so sure what her giving capacity is. But say, for instance, for some reason, I have reason to know because of her position in the community that Anne and her family are very generous. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack, and you'll see that Anne is also a more educated philanthropist here. So we've again met for coffee, and I've thanked her for coming, and now the ask goes something like this. And I'd really like you to consider helping JOFA out in a major way and making a gift of $1,000 to JOFA this year.
Oh, $1,000. Wow, last year I gave 136. Well, you know, I have to tell you, Leslie, it's December, and I think that you are at least the 10th person who has approached me and asked me for a gift to their organization this year, and I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I feel overwhelmed by the needs, but I really feel overwhelmed by the asks. And I'm just wondering, you know, my husband and I are really struggling over where to give and maybe where not to give this year. Tell me why I should give to JOFA this year.
I think that if you could go on the JOFA website and see the myriad of things that this small, lean organization does, that you'd see that you are really getting huge value for what is yes, it's a big ask to you, but it's a gift at that level is such an important gift for JOFA. It really is a sign of commitment to their work, that it would really make a difference in the kinds of programs that they can offer in the coming year. And so you really are getting very, very good value for a significant and generous contribution. So so that's why I think that JOFA is a place where, because you would get such, excuse the crass term, but bang for your buck in terms of the difference that you could make in the lives of Jewish women and the communities in which they live, that you could feel really, really good about making that decision.
Well, you have a good point. But you know, I'm not in a position to make a decision right now. I really am going to have to go home and discuss it with my husband. Would that be okay? I just can't commit today.
Sure, it's a very big ask, and I appreciate that you want to take some time and think about it. And it's great that you're going to discuss it with your husband, because then it can be a joint decision by the two of you to really commit to this Jewish feminist organization. So why don't we make a commitment? I'm going to put it in my phone right now. I'm going to call you a week from today. Is that okay?
What's today?
Today is Wednesday.
Okay. You can call me next Wednesday. That would be great. Thanks.
Great. It's always good to talk to you, and we'll
Thank
catch
you.
up on the kids another time. Gotta go.
Okay. Thanks
so much. Okay, so there you're meeting a more sophisticated kind of donor. She had some questions about the organization, and you do kind of want to have some facts and figures at your fingertips. And if you don't know the answer to a question, if a donor says to you, what's the annual budget, or how much did they raise at the tribute dinner, you can always say, and this is true of almost any Jewish organization that we're involved in, that's a registered 501c3, it's a responsible organization. You can say, you know, let me get back to you. I can contact a staff person, and maybe that person will get back to you. Is it okay if I have Rachel contact you directly to answer some of your questions, so on and so forth. So those are a couple of ways these conversations go. The most important thing is remembering that the greatest mitzvah in all of this is being the asker. It really, the reward for being the asker is actually, according to Talmud, greater than being the one who gives, and that's because you're giving someone the opportunity to do a mitzvah that they might otherwise not have done. Even if they actually don't do the mitzvah, you've given them the opportunity. You've given them the opportunity to change the world. And in fact, that's what I believe JOFA is doing. It's changing a corner of the Jewish world that really is making a huge difference. The other thing I want you to keep in mind is that asking is a privilege. If you are working for an organization that you believe in, that being able to do the work that asks them, that allows them to expand by asking others for some dollars, it's a huge privilege to demonstrate your commitment that way. The biggest gift from asking, the absolute biggest gift from asking is not the dollars that you're going to receive, but the opportunity for human connection. And after all, isn't that just the best thing? Thank you very much. And Anne, thank you so much for playing all the roles with me and the pretend phone and all of that. And back to you.
Great. Great. Well, thank you both for so much to think about. We have some questions from the audience now, if you're ready to answer those.
Sure.
Sure. So one question we got was about who to solicit. If you know one member of the couple has the passion, and you know the other member of the couple is usually the one who makes the financial decisions, who do you decide to solicit? And do you ever decide to solicit couples together rather than separately?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, no, a joint solicitation, especially in a situation like that, is definitely, I think, the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. I think, especially if you have enough information to know that one person's really passionate and the other person may not be, but they're going to be instrumental in helping to make that family's decision. I think you would end up having to meet twice, right? You'll meet with the person with the passion because it's easier, but then they'll eventually say, "Oh, I'll have to talk to my husband or my wife," and you'll have to do it again, or the husband or wife will have said no when the person with the passion goes back. But if you get them both together, you have a much greater chance of getting a gift.
And it allows you the opportunity to answer the objections so that the person who has the passion but not the information doesn't just say, So I think that is absolutely the case where you would speak to both people together.
Great. Do you have strategies for when somebody refuses to meet you in person for a solicitation and are only willing to give you a few minutes on the phone? How do you transition that into a productive conversation or into an in-person meeting?
So one thing, I think I did a little bit of that, is you say, and it's I often do this. I will either commit to a staff person or commit to myself to meeting 5 people in person. And one of the ways to feel confident in that, by the way, is to start with someone you know is going to say yes, so that you don't feel beaten down by the third or the second or third person. So you've had a positive experience already. And often I find it succeeds with people to say, listen, I made a promise to myself that I would meet people face to face, and this is of course much easier to do with people that you know. And people take you seriously when you say, I've made this commitment. Sometimes you really can't avoid it. And again, you have to, that's when I start to anticipate a no, or in the Federation context, a flat gift. You always, I think what you always want to go back to is you want that person to get off the phone with you feeling good about the contact you made. So you can either put it off and say, listen, I really don't want to talk to you about this over the phone. Can I call you back in another month when you might have more time or be more ready to speak to me in person? Or you can have the conversation, but make the person feel good in any way. Even if it's a no, even if it's a no, I won't meet you, no, I won't make a gift, you have to say, listen, thank you even for your understanding that this cause is important to me. I appreciate your time.
So, and if I can add one thing to that, I also think we fall into a trap of only calling people once a year for a gift. And they're not going to want to sit down with you that one time that you call them for a gift. It's going to be very hard to do that. It's really important if you to strategically take a look. You know, Leslie talked about having 5 people. Well, maybe you choose 5 people that are going to be your people that you are going to speak with all during the year, and invite them to a movie, a JOFA movie, or invite them to an event, or invite them for a cup of coffee when you're not talking about JOFA. I mean, the key to really being able to get these meetings and to get donors who want to join you is really to develop a relationship with them, and it can't be that once a year call. Those are so hard. A lot of people just won't sit down with you, but if you've developed a relationship and you've been talking to them all year, and you enjoy each other's company, it'll be much easier getting that time to sit down.
Yeah, as you get to know a donor and know what moves them about the organization, if there's a particular area within JOFA that you see piques their interest, and JOFA really is in the news a lot. It's very easy to forward an article that you see in the paper or that you read about in Shoal or things like that. Again, there's a lot of material you can forward to people, again, with a little handwritten note. It really is a very powerful tool.
Great, thank you. So we have one comment about one woman from Florida says that as a 40-year-old, she loves the new name Women's Philanthropy, and that she is very excited that she earns and contributes to the money that she and her husband donate to the division.
You know, I just want to comment on that because Leslie and I were talking earlier before we started that young women loved the change, just like she said. They loved being called Women's Philanthropy. It was the older women who actually were so uncomfortable with it. Oh. So that's really right what we were thinking.
Right. We found that in our community when we made the change, and that's actually what convinced our older women to go along with it. We said, but all the younger women love it.
That's great. And then we had another question. What is the difference between giving to UJA and giving to Lion of Judah?
Oh, well, first of all, right now UJA is only in New York. So UJA is the name of the Jewish Federation in New York. There are 154 Jewish federations across the country, including UJA in New York. And a Lion of Judah is a woman's personal gift of $5,000 to her local Jewish federation, no matter where you live.
Great. Okay. So we had another question. What if you're not in the position to invite somebody to be a guest at a dinner or at an event, and you're only giving smaller donations to the organization, right, whether it's in the under $100 range? How can you feel comfortable being in a position to make those asks of other people?
I think, again, this goes back to the JOFA website. Say, come watch this, film clip with me. Let's sit at, and again, you can do it at a coffee shop. You can do it at, at your kitchen table. You just pull out your tablet, go to the website, and say, I just have to show you this slideshow. And that, to me, is if I'm going to ask someone if I'm making a $36 donation, that's what I want, or an $18 donation, that's, to me, the beauty of social media these days, is you can share your enthusiasm for this organization without inviting them to a big fancy event. We went big, but I think what you can do is say, come sit with me, I want to just show you this, and then talk, again, just honestly and authentically about why this matters to you. And you don't have to leave the comfort of your couch.
Great. Okay. We had another question from somebody who is a development professional, and they said, what are some strategies directing donors towards giving towards operating support instead of giving restricted gifts?
One of the things that Ann and I had talked about role playing was someone who wanted to give to a specific part of JOFA, one of the JOFA's particular efforts. And of course, the first answer is that an organization, to me, especially with JOFA, but the organization has multiple needs, and it is the leadership of the organization that knows best where those needs are, and that in order to keep the organization's mission moving forward, the best thing to do is to give that operating support. There's a big conversation going on in philanthropy these days about overhead, which is a whole different conversation, but simply to say that if you believe in an organization, it's as important to keep the lights on as it is to support the specific programs, because if there isn't the staff, if there isn't the office space, then the programming can't run. The special efforts that exist can't run. And again, I have to say, in particular, organizations like JOFA that are very lean and nimble, but all charitable organizations really, as long as they hold themselves to a high standard, and you can look all of that up on Charity Navigator or places like that, that you can track how well they're doing, but that operating support is the thing that allows the organization itself to figure out what its mission and goals are.
If I could just weigh in on that for a minute too, for the woman, or I don't know if it's a woman or a man who just, if you are a development professional, you'll know that most strategies are moving away out of necessity from this sort of one gift just going unrestricted, because we find that younger people, especially younger people, just want to know where their money's going to. I mean, I guess we could say it's going for the phone or going for the lights, but they want to see their dollars at work. And I think that that's been a real challenge for us in the Federation, where, one gift goes to everybody. We have this thing that one gift, no gift touches more lives. Well, people can't always feel that. And I think sometimes all the strategies in the world aren't going to work. We really have to figure out what people are saying to us and figure out how to make sure that people who are giving money feel great about the money that they're given, even if they decide to choose to give it to the library instead of into the general operating expenses, just using that for an example. And the other big strategy, I would say, and we didn't discuss this at all, and I don't know if JOFA has an endowment, but if we really want sustainability for a long time in JOFA and any other organization, we're looking more and more to having people leave endowments, legacy gifts, or just endowing gifts, so that the money comes in annually and you have less to worry about with the operating expenses and can focus more on new and innovative things that are happening that people would like to fund.
And there is just one more general thing on that, which is to be able to show the impact of an organization overall, so that one of the things that federations are saying these days, which is true, is that federations are funding more and more only those things that a federation can truly do, acting as a convener, acting as a collector of resources. And here with JOFA too, this is an organization whose impact is enormous, and there's no other organization that's doing what it's doing. So another way of aiming people at the impact an organization is making, rather than taking apart the budget and figuring out what part of it you want to support.
Great, thank you. And we had one last question about when is the appropriate time for a lay leader to introduce their friend who they want to become a donor to a member of the professional staff to get involved in that solicitation?
Well, I think a person should use their own discretion. If it's their friend and the friend is, I think they would have to see if their friend seemed like they were open to it. I don't think there's a specific time. If you can get the person to come to a program or come to a conference or come to a talk or something. But I think it depends on the friend. I don't know. You have a
right. It depends on what their reasoning would be. If it's an informational thing, if somebody wants more information that you don't have, that's an appropriate time. If you think that you've brought somebody as far as you can bring them in understanding the organization, that's a good time. Or if you think they would hit it off, for something about what you know about the staff person and your friend or donor, you're gonna, like Justice Potter Stewart said, you're gonna know it when you see it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both for answering all of the questions.
Okay.
Our pleasure.
Thank you. And I actually I'm going to wrap up for just a minute, and I want to thank Leslie. Thank you. I feel like I was here with you.
Yeah.
And Rachel, it's been such a pleasure working with you. And I guess I want to clarify, when I said to Leslie in the role play that I didn't want to give because I wasn't an Orthodox woman, I just made that up. I really am an Orthodox woman, in case I didn't want to.
And I'm really not.
And she's really not. But I wanted to end with a story. 2 years ago, actually, Leslie was with me. We traveled to Greece on a Jewish Federation mission to see how our Jewish dollars were being spent there and used. And on our bus, we had a lovely Greek woman as our tour guide. And on one of our excursions out for the day, she played a game with us, a guessing game of saying, like, what Greek word. She'd give us a Greek word, and then we'd have to figure out the meaning in English. And she started with the word philos, which means loving. So she said to us, so a bibliophile is a lover of books. And then she said, a philosopher is a lover of learning. And then she said, Philadelphia is a lover of brothers. She said, hence the city of brotherly love. And she went through this whole long list of Greek words that had meaning in English. And then someone raised her hand and said, and philanthropist, what does that mean? And she said, a philanthropist is a lover of people. So as we close tonight, we think about what being a philanthropist means to us. Remember, the simple definition of being a philanthropist is someone who is a lover of people, someone who is a lover of humanity. And at the end of the day, I think that's what drives each and every one of us to do the work that we do, and only good can come from that. So I thank you all. I wish you all luck in becoming a philanthropist. And I thank everyone.
Great. Thank you so much, Anne and Leslie. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you to everybody in our audience for joining in, for participating, and for sharing your questions. And we hope that you will feel more confident and comfortable thinking of yourself as philanthropists and inviting others to join you in your cause. And we hope that you've enjoyed this webinar, and that if you have, you'll continue to stay engaged with JOFA, that you'll join our mailing list, that you'll follow us on Facebook, that you'll explore our website and our other events. And this webinar should be available in a few days on our website. So if you want to rewatch it, take some notes, or share it with other people, we hope that you'll find it there and enjoy. So thank you all very much, and have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.